Afro hair science is a discipline about the biology, the chemistry, the physiology, and of course the history of Afro hair, which we all professionals have truly, if ever I said this word, it is so true, been denied access to this type of discipline and study.
I'm so glad you could make it. Sit down, sit down. Oh, yeah. Oh, the band is gonna be awesome tonight. I dig it. I'm so glad you could make it.
All right, welcome back to season 4 of Therapy Sessions. I'm your host, Tasha Davis, also known as Auntie Hair Coach, and I interview everyday people telling real stories about their beauty industry journey. Today's guest is a master cosmetologist, owner of Reverence Design Team Hair Salon, author, industry activist, and podcast host. LaDosha Wright has entered the chat. Welcome and thank you for accepting my invitation.
Oh, thank you so much for inviting me.
So, I want to get into how we met like a little later in the podcast, but in doing my research about you, I just need to know, when do you sleep?
Oh, you know
Do
what?
you
I'm
sleep?
one of those people. I don't require a whole lot of sleep. So I'm a night owl and I'm a morning person.
Okay.
I love,
Okay.
I just like to get up. I'm like, when I say morning, I'm not like, I don't mean like 4 o'clock. I mean like 6 o'clock, 6:30. I'm ready to go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, it shows because you've been very, very busy. But I want to start at the beginning and just kind of take the listeners on a journey to understand who is LaDosha Wright. So before we even get started, just kind of tell us like, who are you? Where'd you grow up? How'd you grow up? Did you always want to be a hairstylist? Who's
All
LaDosha
that
Wright?
cool stuff. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Who is LaDosha Wright? LaDosha Wright is who I would call the ultimate homegirl. So I am from Cleveland, Ohio, by way of Nashville, Tennessee. I was actually born in Nashville, Tennessee. So people are like, oh, I didn't know that. So I was just born there, not raised there, but I was born there. I'm from the hood. So I grew up in the project, proud to say I am from King Kennedy. And so that's a housing project here in Cleveland, Ohio, that I'm very proud to say that's where I grew up at. I'm also a product of the Cleveland public school system. So a lot of people like to complain at public school systems. They fail our children. I say, malarkey, look at Kilolo. I'm also a teen mom. I was a teen mom. I have two wonderful sons, and I'm also a new mother-in-law. So I love my daughter-in-law so very much. And my work into cosmetology is by way of being an outreach worker. So it would be my work as an outreach worker is how I got into hair, and the activism was truly an authentic, birth out of what I could clearly see. Was not only the consumer base, but also the people who worked in the industry was just simply being taken advantage of. And as my mother would say, once you get hit upside the head with a book, you think you know some things. And so, of
Hmm.
course, my education surely fueled my passion to help, heighten the awareness of what I saw what was happening, but then to also be a part of the solution, as my father always encouraged me to be.
Okay. So, outreach worker, what does that mean? Is that like a social worker? What does that mean?
Yeah, so an outreach worker, we are the people. You don't always have to have a degree to do this kind of work, but I do have an associate's degree. A proud graduate of Cuyahoga Community College here in Cleveland, Ohio. So this is a field of work that works in partnership and under the instruction or supervision, however you want to use it, of licensed social workers, sometimes clinicians or therapists, maybe even sometimes like I what do you call those people who when you're coming out of prison, it just
Yes,
escaped me. Not your correction
parole
officer,
officer, probation
parole
officer.
officer. Thank you. Yes,
Mhm.
you're a probation officer, parole officer, people in recovery. So those types of people, we work under their supervision. And so my particular job was doing home visitation. Then I moved up into management where I was facilitating parenting groups and did some grant writing. And so that's how, I got into hair. So providing that work, doing home visitations and parenting classes where, we see a lot of ills in people who are trying to, just make it in life. And you hear a lot of this rhetoric about pulling yourself up by the bootstraps and this kind of stuff. But folk out here just trying to make it. I'm talking about
Mhm.
like pay the rent, take care of the children,
Mhm.
pay your car notes, your insurance, buy deodorant, toilet paper.
Mhm.
I'm talking about real
Mhm.
life stuff. And so this is a challenge for a lot of people and they just couldn't make it, not because they didn't want to, but just the adversity of just trying, getting up and making it through the day with things we take for granted. Like we have combs, we have brushes, we have shampoos, we have deodorant, we have these things. But these people don't have these things, but we're giving them like clothing vouchers, rent vouchers, but we're missing that little piece that's really making the difference. And that's where hair came into play for me as an outreach worker when I was starting to see the families, like recycle back into the program. And then I would see their children because I was there that long, I'm like, oh, wait a
Mhm.
minute. I know you. And then I just
Mhm.
started asking, like, well, let's put down the clipboard, that typical stuff, and tell me what's going on. And what was coming up from every single person, regardless the race, the socioeconomic, the gender, it was hair. I don't like the way that I look. So when my initial, nonverbal and just my internal thought is like, oh, they're gonna say I'm too dark. I'm too fat. I'm too skinny. Like that. My teeth are missing.
Mhm.
Things like
Mhm.
that. But it wasn't. It was their hair, and I was just like, oh, hair, And so here we are, like removing children. Some parents are not able to follow their reunification plan, and every time I would enter the home, or this, the scene, it was like, girl, your hair look good, and I'm like. We about to move your kids, girl. You're talking about my hair. Like, what's going on here? And
Mhm.
again, not a good position. There's those biases, those implicit biases that people talk about all the time. But thank God for education because I was able to, of course, you don't want to be helping people from that position. And, really being a good listener is what an outreach worker is all about. And of course, you have to be a resource. You have to offer these family resources. And so but there were no resources for hair. No hairstylist could really help these people. And they were not even aware that hair meant that much. And so that's where my line of work began to just flower and blossom.
Okay. And so that was helpful because I was still trying to understand like how do we get from outreach worker to hair. So did you go to cosmetology school?
Yeah, so once I realized just how serious this hair thing was, I thought, for me to advocate for these families, you don't want to do this in lieu of the professional who is there to help them. But also understanding that professional isn't aware that help is needed. And so I said, well, it would truly be very disrespectful for me to be helping people with their hair if I don't have the cosmetology license. That just would be very condescending to the people who do the work. And of course, it's a jump. And then more importantly, it's pseudo. You don't want to be helping people with hair, thinking because you have a college degree, you know how to, read the DSM-4, all this little fancy stuff, and you're under the supervision of all of these people with these wonderful titles. And you got this big organization behind you with grant dollars and things like that. But then you're going to snuff a cosmetologist, and a barber. And so I thought that would just be the ultimate slap in the face. So I went to cosmetology school because for that reason, and that is just not what you should do. You should not do that. And so once I got the license, then I felt like I was legit, that I could really authentically, help people out with their mental health issues via their hair.
That's interesting. I love that you made that connection.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I have a few questions here. So one, so you're already a college graduate, or you've graduated with your
Mm-hmm.
associate's degree by this point.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So one, what does your family think about you completely changing career directions at this point? Are they supportive of that? And then two, share about your cosmetology journey and what that education was like. Did you feel prepared for the real world, quote unquote,
Mm-hmm.
when you graduated cosmetology school?
Okay, so my parents were like, "Foolish, you're crazy." So now, mind you, remember now, I was a teen mom. I
Okay.
definitely fell into that statistic where, she's probably going to have another baby before she's 21, and I did. So I
Mm.
was truly the least likely person to succeed. Even though I did graduate from college with honors, I was really just like slow to come out the gate because I just had a horrible attitude. And so to see me blossom into a professional, my parents were just so happy because for one, she's off welfare. Thank the Lord, as my father would say. Child, you got to get off welfare. And so I was off for 14 years. My career as an outreach worker had truly blossomed. Like I was the it girl. I was known as the hair lady. I was a professional bagger. I was the bomb grant writer. So I was locking this outreach career path. And I was ready to go back to school to, finish my education and go on to get a master's. I wanted to open up my own organization, like that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
And so when I, went to cosmetology school, and it was actually my supervisors who really said, I think you would do this better if you were a cosmetologist because you're onto something. And I was like, no, I don't want to be a bimbo. Like, I don't want to be a hairstylist. Like, nobody respects them. I'm just getting this, for credibility's sake. And they were like, well, if that's what you see, then you need to go into that industry and help change it. And I was like, me, the LaDosha, could help change an entire industry. And it was like, yeah, you're such an activist. You're so good. So you can help families and you can help the cosmetologist. And I was like, okay, I'll do it under one condition. And that is, if this doesn't work out, can I get my job back? And so, the agency was like, of course, you'll always have a job, but we don't think we'll ever see you again, at least not on this side of the table. And so, my family and friends and customers, they donated money to help me open up a salon that teaches people how to do their own hair and empowers the cosmetologist who wants to help people to do the same thing. And so that career path, truly came out of what I saw, that was missing, which was the how to, and you got the products, you got the tools, but everybody's missing the how to. And so when I went to cosmetology school, there's a complaint, oh, they don't teach you anything Cosmetology school is just so mediocre. They're just taking the government's money. They don't do anything. They don't make any money. I beg to differ. I mean, every school, every educational system or discipline has room for improvement. That is without a doubt. But I am one of those people who was taught everything. I did not grow up with wanting to be a hairstylist. I did my cousin's hair, but it was because, in our culture, when you're the oldest, you have to help out in the home. And so that was my assignment, helping with, cooking and cleaning and doing the hair. But it wasn't no passion. It was like, I don't want to comb the hair. And then I didn't want to get my hair combed either. So
Man.
no. So when I wanted to become a hairstylist, my family was like, who's gonna let you do their
Ah,
And so by this time, I have become this great hair teacher. And I said, well, apparently there's a lot of people who don't really care about a hairstyle. They just want it clean and combed and like smooth out or cornrow braid. Like, braid it up, put me in a ponytail. Some people didn't really even want it pressed out. And so since I didn't know how to do finger waves, a hair weave, I didn't know how to do any of this stuff. I just figured, well, I'll just get that little bitty segment, that market, that demographic of people who just want, clean hair, and I don't have to know how to do all the other stuff. And come to find out that was what they call a niche. And so that became my sole population, is that I'm only going to do people who don't want that. And so that's how it happened, and my education in cosmetology did prepare me to do just that. And so there are a lot of people who say, the schools don't, but I beg to differ. I don't think they give you everything, but they never said they did. They made it abundantly clear that I would have to go on to get continuing education. I did my internship at a hair salon. I made horrible mistakes, but I would say the education in cosmetology was well worth every penny of it. But did I see room for growth? Did I have issues in cosmetology schools? Yes, I did, but I also had them in the hood, I mean, in college, I had issues,
yeah.
but I was educated and I love the journey, and I would recommend it for anybody who wants to, professionally, care for and style hair.
Amen. And
Thank you.
I thought that I heard, um, so you did have an internship, and then did you just go straight to owning a salon from your internship?
No, 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 no,
Okay.
no, no. I worked with a family, an Italian family. I got to give him a shout out. His name is Jay Valadez, and oh my gosh, he was like the best. His mom. They had a beautiful, just small salon in a little small suburb called Lakewood. And Jay was like the man. And Jay, I don't know, he just saw something in me, and he really encouraged me so much. I mean, a whole lot. And so I worked, with him and their family for maybe a little over a year, I think, if my memory serves me correct. And then I went to work in a black salon for about a month. I couldn't do it. I need structure because I came from corporate, so I didn't. The whole booth rental thing was never going to work for me because I needed supervision. I needed training. I needed an apprenticeship. I did not know. I was one of those black people who I didn't know everything. Some black people was just, hair in the kitchen, and my hair in the kitchen was ponytails, cornrow braids, and a straightening comb. That was as
Mm-hmm.
good as it got.
Mm-hmm.
And it helped me, don't get it twisted. But
Mm-hmm.
finger waves, pencil curls, pixie cuts, quick weaves, putting hair in the microwave, girl, bye.
I was just talking about putting my ponytail in the microwave in the 90s.
I come from the old school where you had to know how to do your hair.
Mhm.
My mother was on welfare, and it just wasn't happening. I mean, she wasn't going to buy us any cars. She was like, the car you get will be the one you pay for. The hairstyle you want will be the one that you do. She was just, I think even if she had it, she still wasn't going to do it. And I'm glad, at the time, of
Yeah,
course, I begged to differ.
of course. Yeah,
But so that's just how it went down for me. I mean,
yeah.
people think that Black people just have this. Oh, you go to a Black person, she can hook it. Dude, not me.
And I love when you talked about your salon being one where you teach people how to do their own hair. I'm still behind the chair part time, and I tell my guests all the time I consider myself to be an educating stylist because
Oh,
I'm only going to see you. I'm a hair colorist. I'm going to see you if I see you every 6 to 8 weeks. That means over a year's time, I'm going to see you somewhere between 6 and 8 times. There's 365 days in the year. What is your hair going to look like the rest of the 340 50 some odd
yeah,
days, right? So
right.
I love when you talked about educating your guests on how to take care of their own hair because that's so important that those other days of the year when they're not in your chair, that they still look like some
Yeah,
work
it's
that you would be
just
proud of.
all right. It's unrealistic. I think when people look at people who visit hair salons, where we're not going to deny this is income that some people just have, and they just kind of, I'm going to get my, I work hard and get my hair done. But there's a large segment of people who are coming to the hair salons because they have to. Like, they have no concept of hair care. They were not allowed to touch their hair. Hair care in the Black community, this, you know, using culture to kind of like, as this broad brushstroke, it's like the worst thing that you can do because African Americans have so many subcultures as they have languages, even here in America, and you just can't do that. So to imply that all Black people know how to comb their hair, like that's a lie. I wrote a book called "What They Don't Tell You at the Hair Salon," and I share that my experience growing up as a child, where I got these horrible braces on right now because I got duped up because of my hair. And when my mom went to help the parents, confront the parents and say, hey, your daughter, beat my kid up, blah, 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 over some hair. Let me help you. Hey, they mamas wanted to fight my mama. And that was
Wow.
in the 70s. And so all the stuff that you hear people say, back in the day, we didn't have these things. Oh, yes, we did. Stop saying that. We had
Mhm.
violent parents. We had parents who were, ill-informed, misinformed, full of anger, full of confusion. And I know it because I lived it. And my mom was one of those parents who wanted to help. And so the myth that, Black people just know these things about their hair, that is so incorrect. And all we just have to address that. And so and I'm glad, I'm very thankful for this interview, and I'm glad that you're a hair coach too, because we need to do that. That is a myth. And the truth of the matter is, when they stole us from Africa, they did not bring over any hair supplies. So culturally, you'll hear 1,000 narratives of what to do with this Afro hair.
Absolutely. And I definitely want to talk about Afro hair science because I know that that's something that you're very well educated in. Um, but I also want to talk about these books. I definitely want to connect on I'm so glad that you said that because I was raised in a military family. I have one sister in the home with me. I was raised, my dad retired from the Air Force. We moved every year and a half my whole life. Um,
Wow.
And I did not grow up doing my little sister's hair. I grew up going to the hair salon to have my hair done because my mom didn't know how to do my
See, there
hair.
you go.
And so going to cosmetology school. was interesting because I expected to learn how to care for my hair and I still did not. That's a journey that I had to go on my own. So you're absolutely right. I just wanted to co-sign what you said about assuming that just because I don't know if this was for you or where you went to cosmetology school, but the one that I went to, it was very diverse. But whenever a black client came in, it was automatically like, oh, give them to one of the black girls. Like we just automatically knew how to do it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And they
Now
didn't.
that, yeah, that art, I was the only African American in the school at that time. And right up the street was a little small town called Elyria, which was, I don't want to say it was predominantly black, but there's a large, African American, population. And they came down to the school because cosmetology schools are, they cheap, y'all. Let's just keep it 100. And so they did not let's give all the black people to LaDosha. No, they made everybody do that hair.
Mm, that's
No,
good.
their whole thing was you needed well, first of all, they were forthright that um they don't know it, they didn't know everything. Now that they were very honest about, but what did happen was once the word got out, hey, there's a black girl in that school, then all of these black people started coming. And so this one particular instructor, what she did was, for some reason, she decided, she made a management decision to charge black people more than white people. And so it was the white people who was like, hey, LaDosha, And I didn't, hey, one thing my mother told me to do, like, don't touch the money. Like, whatever you do, don't go in there because you don't want to be
Mhm,
accused of stealing. So when it came
mhm,
time to learn how to manage the salon, I did that part, but I didn't want to get anywhere near the money because I just didn't want to be accused of stealing those white folks' money. So I was
mhm.
like, I don't know. So it was going over my head, to be honest. And so then finally, that my classmates, I'll never forget, her name was Anita Baker, for real. She was
Right.
a white girl. And so she and another, they pulled me aside and was like, listen here. And so we had to get the Department of Education involved. That's when my activism began. That was the moment. I could clearly see some things like the one book. I was very disappointed. Like, for this much money, we only have one book. And
Yeah.
so they were like,
Yeah.
girl, bye, so yeah, we had those types of things, but I felt like I got exposed to all the textures. I went on to become a master colorist, but they were big on hair coloring. I thought they did the best that they could with what they had. And so the school is no longer there, but and it definitely has some race issues, but you have that everywhere. I mean, that's America,
Yeah. No,
you
facts.
know. It is
Facts.
what I don't think it's worth acting a fool over. I mean, it's the American way, unfortunately.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Okay, so before I do want to continue along the path of your education, but I want to backtrack because you
Hmm.
mentioned your book, um, What They Don't Tell You at the Hair Salon. And then, am I correct in that you also wrote a children's book called Curly Hair Adventures?
Oh yes, yes, yes,
Yeah, talk
yes.
to us about your career as an author in the beauty industry as well. Have you always been a writer?
Oh yes. So when I was a kid, I remember my teacher, Mr. Catledge. I was one of those, those crybaby kids. Growing up, nobody likes me, like that kind of thing. Because I was a nerd, and so I remember the day my teacher gave me Maya Angelou book, and Still I Rise, a book of poems. Oh my God! So I wanted to be a poet, so I would write my mother poems and love letters like all day, every day. I was just like, I was so in love with my mom. I just thought she was so
Yeah.
beautiful. I loved the way she smelled. I loved her skin. I loved her moles. I loved her teeth. I mean, my mother was my Beyonce, my Janet Jackson.
Yes.
But she took no shorts, trust me. And so I just always liked to write. And so one day I was just sharing with my customer, like, well, they asked you, well, what, if you wasn't going to be a hairstylist, what would you have been? And I said, well, in my real life, I would have been a poet and an author. And they was like, what? And I said, why didn't you do it? And I said, well, my mom would say, you'll be a starving artist. Now, I don't think she literally meant that, but that was just how kids, we just magnify everything our parents say. I
Yeah.
know she didn't mean that. But anywho, that was my interpretation of what she meant. And so I just was like this closet poet and writer. I would write short stories and things of that nature. So my customer just basically said, I don't believe that. And I said, oh, yeah, and I wanted to be a hip hopper, but girls couldn't really hip hop back then. And so she said, well, let me see what you can do. So I was like, okay. She said, well, I'll give you a topic and I said, well, no. Um, my goddaughter was there and she hated getting her hair done. And so we kind of used that as our challenge. And so I just, did it. So, so the book, was like a challenge. She just pretty much said, hey, let's just try this now and see what you can do. And so I just told her the story. She wrote it out. And unbeknownst to me, to make a long story short, come to find out, she was a literacy specialist and she had taken the concept to a friend. They made some small edits. They pretty much bullied me into entering like, new authors competitions and pitches and that kind of thing. When you pitch your book, like and see if somebody. And
Mm-hmm.
so,
Mm-hmm.
so one day it happened like just that fast. And so she said, there's a pitch going on in the church near your salon. And I was like, lady, my rich dude. She said, get your, A double crooked up there and pitch the book. And so I pitched the book and I won. And so I was
That's awesome.
assigned a editor and so the rest they say is history. And
I love
yeah,
that.
so they did all the fancy stuff to the book to all the things that and then I just traveled and everywhere I went with the book it just sold. It sold. It sold. It sold. And it continues to sell, sell, sell. And so,
Okay. I will go looking for it and add it to my collection. I love
oh yeah, you're
books.
gonna
I'm
love
such a book
Curly Hair
lover.
Adventures. It takes children on a rhyming journey of diversity through hair and foreign language. And so, it's just this kids get to learn to say hello in all these different languages, Spanish, Swahili. It's just, it's just a wonderful book.
I love
Yeah.
it. I love it. Okay. To switch gears, but I wanted to make sure that I touched on this topic for sure. You are very passionate about Afro hair science. Just talk with us about that. What is Afro hair science? Why does it matter? Talk about the Afro Hair Science Summit. Just what is it?
So, Afro hair science is a discipline about the biology, the chemistry, the physiology, and of course the history of Afro hair, which we all professionals have truly, if ever I said this word, it is so true, been denied access to this type of discipline and study. And I stumbled across it just via an exchange on YouTube, where someone like a customer came to me for like a Jerry curl. The grandmother talked her out of a service called a Gina curl. And so a Gina curl is basically the same thing as a Jerry curl. It's just that instead of using a wet, moisturizer, she's using like Hawaiian Silky has the dry, that one. It's just, that's what it is. And
Mm-hmm.
so this is a Caucasian woman
Mm-hmm.
named Miss Gina Rivera, and she charges like $800 for this service. And the grandmother just pretty much told the granddaughter, "Hey, that looks like a lot like a Jerry curl." I had never heard of a Gina curl, and so I just Googled it to see, like, I don't know what she's talking about, and it's sure there it was. And I mean, you charge what you charge. It's none of my business. If she charges $800, hey, she's got a valid reason. I don't know. Um, but what bothered me was that she was given credit for inventing this. And I became like literally infuriated. I've been radicalized by Karis One and Public Enemy. So you kind of know where I'm going with this. My poor righteous teachers was just kicking in, you know what I'm saying? And X-Clan, and I'm like, Eric Michael Dyson and all those John Henry Clark, Dr. Ben, all this is kicking in from college. And I'm like, yo, like if we
Yes.
let these cats, take this history, then it's our fault. And so I went down that rabbit hole of trying to find Dr. Willie Morrow. I knew without a doubt he was the man who had invented it because my mentor, Olive Benson, said, if you don't know Dr. Willie Morrow, then you cannot do hair, period. And I was like, oh boy, so I had to find out who Dr. Willie Morrow. So that's how I knew all about Dr. Willie Morrow, because she's like, I ain't even rocking with you until you know who this man is. And so I went on this true journey to find him, and I found his daughter, Cheryl Morrow. And from there, it unfolded before my very eyes. Like everything that I was saying about hair is just hair, and it's black hair, and our hair is different from theirs, and just all this cockamamie stuff. And she just pretty much got me together in one conversation. I'm not even, she'll tell you, I just started crying because I was embarrassed. And I didn't believe her. I did not believe her. I didn't believe her because she wasn't white. I felt like, well, I,
Mm.
I, I just kind of felt like white people because the way they talk and the way they have things organized, that kind of stuff, that made their type of education and learning style more credible. And so I was angry at her and I was confused. And, so anyway, you know how they say I got receipts, so she had receipts. And what could I do? So her father, she taught me, was awarded a government contract in 1967, which is the year I was born, to teach Afro hair, due to Afro hair science, to the men who were cutting hair in the military because of race riots. So during the Vietnam War, black men were like, "I'm not fighting your war, white man." And I remember hearing that a little bit, but I didn't know. Anywho, and
Mm-hmm.
so the
Mm-hmm.
research pretty much was there that happened. And so I went to vet it to find out, was it true? And I came across a researcher. She's a veteran historian, and her name is Dr. Beth Bailey. And I have a customer who is also a historian at the Indiana Historical Society. And so she found some stuff, and we just crossed it all, dotted our I's, crossed our T's, and that kind of stuff. And there it was. He was awarded that contract, and he had access to all of these people to help him write this Afro hair science in ways that you have to go to school to learn it. You cannot Google this. You can't, no, that's never going to happen. And so, we did a documentary on the plight of this very conversation. Everything that you said is highlighted, in the documentary, and then we just kind of centered it around Dr. Willie Morrow and how we have been denied, and this natural hair movement are just a group of people who have been fooled and duped, like me. I thought that everything that Milady's book taught me was it. And it's not that Milady's is wrong. It's just that Milady's is limited. And
There's more to
there
the
is more.
story.
It is more.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I was right that we needed another book, but the school, their response was, well, what other book could there be? Now we're talking about this is 1999, 2000. So mind you, 1967, he had already wrote the book on the science of Afro hair. So it was there, and some people knew who Dr. Morrow was. They was aware that he had a book and that he had been promised to add his book as an addendum to the Milady's book, but they never did it. And so Cheryl, I just asked Cheryl. I said, "Listen, we need to, we can't afford to just roll it out because it's just we don't have the money. We're two, just everyday people who are passionate, and let's put on a summit and let me do what I can, you do what you can, and let's in small incremental steps we'll release pieces of it until it catches on, because a lot of people are just not going to believe it. And you just don't want to push that
Mm.
out there. And we don't have a marketing person. This is our passion. And so we did it, and it was overwhelming. It was just, oh my God, there are no words to capture how successful it was. And was it February the 14th here in Ohio? We introduced the first, textual hair science bill, which is all about Afro hair science. And they kind of, we went back and officially proposed it. I should say, not introduced. I'm sorry, proposed it. And they were like, "Get the ham sandwich out of here," but that's okay, because we're going to go back and we won't stop until they add it to the education. It's not a big ask. They can do this, and I believe they will do it. We just have to, what's that, due diligence. And so we're going to
Hmm.
continue to do our part as professionals and host the summit. We're going to do it again this year. We're working out the particulars now. And so it has been life changing. When I say it has changed my life, the salon, like our salon is already the bomb. I ain't even gonna try to brag. It truly is. Not because it's the salon, it's because of the people. But when I tell you,
Yeah.
that weekend, we came back to work on Tuesday, and we applied the Afro hair science, from the way we wash the hair to the comb that we used. I mean, everything. This man had everything. A comb specifically for Afro hair. Like, oh my God. I mean, our customers, no words, money doubled. Our happiness just, it raised exponentially. We were hugging each other more, laughing more. We love science more. Our confidence built. Our customers were just raving. It was like magic happening, and it continues to happen every single day. That Afro hair science is very liberating. It's mighty. It's very powerful.
Love that. I love that. Definitely keep me posted on the Afro Hair Summit this year. I would love to attend. I've got a lot going on this year, but if there's any way possible, I will do my absolute
Yeah,
like
it'll be in
everything
October.
to be there. I
It'll
really
be
want.
sometime in October. So it's not
That's
coming
helpful.
soon, and not not that soon. Yeah.
Great,
So yeah.
great. Okay, definitely keep me posted, and I will share that information when it comes along. All that. Okay, so you already touched on it, but I want to talk about the work that you've been doing to protect the beauty industry, to enhance the beauty industry, regarding laws in Ohio and across the country. So, the way that you and I met was at a town hall at Bronner Brothers this year. That was my first ever Bronner Brothers show, turned
Yeah.
out.
I love
Um,
that show.
and then we proceeded to spend 12 hours together at the legislative branch in Atlanta because to protest SB 354 here in Georgia, where they're starting to kind of nitpick at the cosmetology industry and take that apart. Um, but in doing my research, I saw that you had a pretty aggressive encounter in Ohio, in Cleveland, um, in the past. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. So one of the things about this industry that I noticed is that the barber and beauty industry is so full of people who are just so like self-absorbed. It makes no sense. I mean, all they're pretty much concerned with is like who's following them, who they're going to be the
Mm,
ambassador for. And it's like, do y'all understand what these people are doing to this industry because of people like you guys?
yeah,
And so,
yeah.
because of the work that the sad part is, those natural hairstylists, they have no clue of the work that they are undoing. I mean, this is like a really
Mm,
harsh, connection to make. But I just want to be harsh just to kind of sting. And even if it, for people to come back and say, how dare you, even, use that as an analogy. But the work that the natural hair movement has done to the Afro hair industry is likened to lying on Harriet Tubman or exposing the Underground Railroad or going back. Remember, she said, if you go back, I got to murk you,
I'll shoot you dead before I let you turn
And
back
so to
now.
me, that is what these people are doing. And so hopefully if someone is listening, like, is this broad crazy? Yeah, well, go and do your homework and then get angry, so angry with me. Like, I can't believe she would say something like that. And then you will see exactly if you are participating, you are a co-conspirator into the most debilitating, most stigmatizing, just backward, movement, whatever you want to call it, association you could ever, affiliate yourself with. And this politician, his name is Ohio State Representative Elliot Forehand, and we just had a heated exchange where he did not want the government and the business of natural hairstylists and felt like that did not need government regulation. And I could not argue that point. I will always admit I can't. But when you remove the regulation, the education goes with it. It's just implied. You can argue all day long. Well, we never said we didn't want them to be educated. Well, government, regulation, it kind of requires some, because that's how they
Hmm.
regulate you. You got to know how to do what? Practice sanitation. You got to know how to read. You got to know what that is. And in order to do that, you need to be educated,
Hmm.
So we got into it to the point where he put his fingers in my face, and it was bad. It was really bad. And I just could not believe that it had come to that. And at the end of the day, we were
Yeah,
saying the same thing. We were just saying it differently. But because of what he had been told and what he had, and it wasn't in detail, it was just like, these people, what do you call them? What do they call it again? Americans for Prosperity, the Koch brothers, all of those, Institute for Justice, those people. Well, not the Koch brothers, but
hmm,
the Koch brothers funded.
hmm,
How about we say that? The Koch brothers
hmm.
funded
Okay.
organizations. They just have talking points pretty much from black people who think that now that, they're too good for education. We could just go on YouTube. And they're arguing this point. And I'm like, do you know what black people went through for you to be able to talk the way that you talk? You're
Yeah.
already reaping the benefits. So how dare you of all people? And but so on that note, you could be mad, but that's what they told him. And so, it
Mm,
just blew up into a very nasty situation. And then they just ended up smearing this guy, calling him a racist. He wasn't a racist. He was just ignorant. And so we're the best of friends now. I mean, I can honestly say I love Elliot Forehand. I've met his two moms.
okay.
And that exchange was possible. Unfortunately, it cost him his career in another way that had, they tried to use my incident to smash this man's career. Again, it's just the evil that men do, but that was a legitimate exchange between a politician and his constituent that we needed to work that out. And he did. He gave us his word that, he didn't know that. He was only going off of what he was told. And so once we brought the
Sure.
receipts, what you do, you fess up and say, I was wrong. And he said, I will try to help
Yeah.
pass the law and blase Skippy, and so it just worked out, for us for the better. But that's part of that activism. And I would continue to be that voice. And if I have to do it alone, it makes me no difference. Somebody's got to do it. I can't sit and watch people talk about locks and stuff are this African, like, where, show me where, where your receipts are, and all this whole black, for the culture, where, what part of Africa have you been to, just this kind of stuff. We just have to stop that. It's bad. It's bad, bad. It's actually the antithesis of an African. If you alter your hair, it's not natural. If you put chemicals in your hair, like all this stuff, it's just bad. It's bad. It's bad.
Mm. Okay. I'm trying to understand what you're saying. So you're saying that the idea of all African people are this particular way, and if you do this thing outside of
You're
it,
not black.
that just I
Yeah, you
got you.
can't. Yeah, you
Okay.
can't. I mean, who are we to tell a person? I mean, first of all, when you look,
Yeah.
and then when you read all of these articles about blackness and intersectionality, I'm like, excuse me, do
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
what black means? I mean, it,
Yeah.
it came out of, I don't call me a Negro, don't call me nigga.
Mm.
So
Mm-hmm.
there's the intersectionality
Mm-hmm.
is built into the word black. But now you're going to take that
Yeah.
new term, intersectionality, and you want to apply it to hair and hair care products. Why would you do that? Why?
Yeah.
But these are people who don't know the history of
Yeah.
why we said black power, you know, and
Yes.
they're using it to make money, and they're playing on people's ignorance, and they dress it up. Oh, they put glasses and makeup and hair.
Insecure
Oh my
dress.
gosh,
Yeah.
they put celebrities on it,
Yeah.
and it's so
Yeah.
convoluted. And so when I talk, they're like, get that old lady, tell that old lady to go home.
Yeah. LaDosha, girl, we are running out of time and I
Yes,
still have questions, but I want to start to wrap it up um, so that I can respect your time and whatnot. So I know I'll talk to you again
yes, ma'am.
soon. Let's take a moment for what I call story time with Auntie Hair Coach. So I give you a prompt and you just tell me a quick short story. Um, and normally I give you three prompts, but since we're short on time, we're only going to do one. And since I love your podcast, Planet Pluto Pseudo, and then the dumbest shit people say about Black people's hair, I'm going to base your prompt on that. So your story time prompt is: what is the dumbest shit you've ever heard about Black people's hair?
The dumbest shit I've heard that black people say about black hair is black hair. That is some dumb ass shit. You just can't get more
Mm,
stupid. I mean, for people to just keep saying that Afro textured hair is solely on dark complex people, that is like the dumbest shit.
mm,
Uh, it has been,
mm.
it is just reported over and over and over again. Africa has the most diverse DNA on the entire planet because they people
Yes,
the planet. We're all Africans.
the original
We
people.
we
Yes,
are all
ma'am.
Africans. We just look different. We're in different hues. Some are light,
Yeah,
some are white, some are blonde, some have blue eyes, some have brown. We're all Africans. And so black has a
yeah.
whole nother meaning in America. And so that's
Yeah.
the dumbest shit that people say about. We even like saying it like, I mean, why y'all call it black hair? That's some dumb shit. We trying to tell y'all. I mean, there's some culture in it. Don't
Right.
get me wrong, but not much,
Yeah.
not much.
Yeah. Yeah. How can my listeners follow your movement?
It's very easy. Just follow us on YouTube at afrohairscience.com. I always tell everybody, now, if you just Google LaDosha Wright, you just go to Google and you type in LaDosha Wright, WRIGHT. I promise you, you can find everything about me except my baby daddy. So Afro Hair Science on YouTube is where the live action happens. But you can Google me and then all of my appearances and pretty much everything that I do, it'll pretty much populate the hair salon and all that cool stuff.
Awesome. LaDosha, it's been a pleasure to catch up with you again today. Like I said, I know I'm going to be talking to you soon. Thanks for being
Yes,
here.
I love to come to Atlanta and do some hair color in your space. We
Yes,
got
bring it on.
yeah, we got to do some work
You have
together.
my number.
Yes, 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 yes. And thank you so
Yes.
much. This was definitely an honor. I appreciate you very much.
Thank you. All right.
Sit down, sit down. Oh, yeah. I'm so glad you could make it.
Next time on Therapy Sessions with Auntie Hair Coach.
And I knew there was something special there. Like the touch of her hair, the honor of being able to do her hair, and the way it felt to like make her feel beautiful. So something clicked. Within a year or so after that, I heard that I could go to cosmetology school.